Hey guys, welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at a very early game on the PlayStation by the name of Off-World Interceptor Extreme. This game originally started off life on the 3DO console back in 1994, but then was later ported then onto the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn in late 1995 around November. So this game is primarily a vehicular combat based game where you kind of drive through levels with a rigged out kind of like off-road kind of style vehicle where you can go over different types of terrain, and essentially you're just using your weapons to just literally shoot and blow up everything that literally comes across your way. The game is very fast paced and it's very kind of frantic. There's a lot going on. It's kind of like more or less like kind of like an on rails kind of shooter style game. It's very similar to the likes of I've also done a video on a game called Total Eclipse Turbo that was very similar. It has a very similar style graphically and similar aesthetic. The only difference is you're flying a spaceship rather than driving like say an off-road land style vehicle, but the gameplay is almost identical in terms of it, just you have different kind of aesthetics or elements in play. I'll leave a link down in the description so that you can go and check that game out also, and you can actually see that they're very similar with the way they actually do play. So I haven't played this game now. I remember seeing it back in the day. I do remember seeing the game like on like store shelves and so forth, and even in magazines. But I never really actually played it myself, especially when I then got familiar with the PlayStation. Again, because this was one of the earlier titles to be released on the console. You'd always kind of see it like in like second-hand stores, game stores, or even like video stores, or even like in the game shops themselves. You'd always see it like kind of like in a bargain bin or even like a used copy somewhere. And I never really kind of looked into it. Again, I think because back then I wasn't really as into those type of games as such. There were certain games I was into, but some of these ones I probably wasn't into as much. But having played it, it is actually a decent title. It does get, I will admit, a little bit on the repetitive side after a while from playing it. So the game allows you to go over different types of terrain, pretty much on different types of planets, and then you fight off enemies based off the environments that you're actually currently in. And they all have their own difficulties and different obstacles and so forth to avoid. And it does get tricky as time goes on. You have different kind of elements where you can go over ramps and kind of you can even kind of like use booster packs to allow the car to kind of jump and even kind of like fly for a small period of time to get you over like certain like land hurdles and so forth. The game's just frantic, so it is like it, and it's primarily based on likes of 3D environments, but the enemies and the likes of the vehicles themselves that you play as are primarily 2D sprites, but they give it almost kind of like a 3D kind of esque kind of vibe. And that was a common practice with earlier 3D titles. They had a lot of these kind of visual aesthetics where you would actually, it looked, the graphics on the actual vehicles themselves or the characters you were playing looked like they were 3D because they were so well drawn on the screen. But when you've seen the movement, it's only when you get more familiar with playing 3D style games you've seen that they only moved in certain ways and that they weren't actually 3D, but they were still put together very well. So this game like was developed obviously by Crystal Dynamics that would later go on to do the likes of the Legacy of Kain series, and this was definitely one of their earlier type of titles. Like there is loads of different types of terrain. Like the graphics even for an early game are actually very good, and it very aesthetically it's very similar to that other game I mentioned, Total Eclipse Turbo. If you play that game or if you check out the video, you'll see that the aesthetics of the land and the graphics and stuff are very similar, almost identical. But the game itself actually plays really well. The one thing I will say is, and it got mixed reviews in magazines, and primarily due to the fact is that the gameplay aesthetics, that no matter what type of terrain that you're on, it never seems to show an issue with the vehicle that you're driving at all. It never slows it down. It doesn't be realistic in terms of struggling to climb up a hill. You can literally just drive over anything that you want. But the game pretty much, because it's based like kind of like on an on-rail shooter kind of style aesthetic, you can't actually like stop or reverse or move backwards in the level. You literally just go forward the whole time, and it's literally just up to you to just either avoid or shoot everything in your way. So it definitely took me a few attempts, as you can see there. There's definitely a few times where I wasn't able to do that, because again, it just takes definitely a bit of practice to get familiar with everything that's going on. But it's not a bad game, like, for what it is. Like, for an older style game, and a lot of these older style games as well were more simplistic and basic in terms of what they offered. But it's a decent enough game for a quick playthrough for a couple of minutes if you have a bit of time to spare, or even if you just want to experience something a little bit different and experience just an older school type game. But it is actually fun, but after a while you probably will want to go on to something else, because even though it's pretty much the same thing over and over again, you just have to get from start to finish. Like, pretty much you start at the start of the level and have to get to the end, and you have to do that while avoiding all the elements and trying to shoot as many and destroy as many enemies as you can along the way, and just literally racking up the points as you go along. Now, there's different game modes. There's even like a multiplayer mode as well that you can play against your mates as well, so you can play like a deathmatch. And if you're playing through the likes of the campaigns or even the arcade, you do have the ability to upgrade your vehicles as well throughout the game, so you can unlock like better, stronger weapons, even increase your armor and so forth, so that you can last longer in the levels and take a lot more damage and so forth. So it does have that aesthetic to it, but it's a fun title. It's old school. That's the one thing I'll say about it. And if you're looking for something like this here, just to kind of just see if you're into these type of games, I would give this a go and just see what you think for yourself. I mean, it's good for a quick blast through and just have a bit of fun. So, what are your thoughts on this game? Have you played Off-World Interceptor Extreme on the PlayStation, or even on any of those other consoles as I mentioned? If you have, did you enjoy it? Or maybe not? Be sure to share your thoughts down in the comments below. So, if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be updated whenever I release future content, and also feel free to share the video, as I am going to be re-exploring a lot more of these older style classic games on the PlayStation and sharing my thoughts and experiences with everyone. So as always, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and keep those gaming memories alive.